Well, good morning, everyone. I'm sorry that two other people who were waving on us, Anna Wojciechowska and Marsilio Onofre, wanted to ask Professor Solomon some questions, but hopefully maybe at the end of this morning, there will be still time to get back to this and ask questions, hopefully. But my turn is now to welcome and introduce our first speaker, which is Diana Milena Acosta Cruz. Diana, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Excellent, welcome.
Thank you.
Diana is a Spanish concert pianist and writer, manager, and producer. She will talk about the Wonders of the Forest project, which is the project which tries to overcome or bridge classical music with modern audiences. Diana was trained as a pianist, as I said, in Barcelona and also at the Prince Class Conservatorium in Groningen. She received different prizes and honors as the pianist, but also was a renowned speaker at different forums. One of the final one was the practice-based research prize, which she got at the Research Festival in 2023, last year. So we are looking forward to hear about your project, Diana.
My name is Diana Acosta, and I'm here to talk about my project, The Wonders of the Forest, in which I am the creator, the performer, and the producer. I would like to start talking about the necessity, which was the necessity from our context, where the project came from, and what is its contribution or the aim of the project into for this context. We are talking about a context of the 21st century, our context, where classical music is dealing with this common perception in general audiences that sometimes can be limiting and even detrimental to classical music. General audiences usually think of classical music as old-fashioned, difficult, and even distant. And this, of course, has a major impact in the audience attendance to classical concerts, but also in the daily life of the performers that are trying to build up and sustain a professional career. And with these struggles, sometimes they just go into this adopt apathy as the way to get through it. This is even a more pressing problem for contemporary music that struggles a lot. They have more issues to be programmed regularly in concert seasons of auditoriums, festivals, and etc. And of course, they suffer even more the less attendance, the lack of audiences in the performances. So from this context, one question arises, and among many, no, but the one that really struck to me was how, as classical musicians, can we reconnect again with audiences in this, our contemporary context? And for that, I would like to share with you some examples of some proposals, some concerts, performances that are leading or are trying to explore this innovation in performances conception. I choose two. They have this different look about performance, but they are also related to nature and the forest. The first one would be So Silent Music, that is a meditative concert usually played in the nature, performed by Silvia Vidal and Ramon Humet. And in these concerts, they combine the music of this classical Catalan composer, Frederic Montpou, from the Impressionistic time, from the beginning of the 20th century, with this big cycle that he has, this música callada, and they combine it with Tibetan gongs and bowls to create this meditative environment, atmosphere during the performance. One of these performances took place in the Tocan Piano Festival in Tortosa, Catalonia, back in Spain. And as you can see in this performance, they are already performing outdoors in a park with forest and nature surrounded. The other example is Mutability, that it is an immersive concert installation created. The idea was from Yanis Kyriakides, which is also the director, is composer and sound designer of this performance, that also counts with Darian Brito in charge of the audiovisual art and the creative coding, and Theon Mosk as the scenography for the performance. And in this performance, the members of the Ascot Chamber Ensemble plays as soloist and live original musical miniatures of 12 composers besides Kyriakides. And these performances, this live acoustic sound, is altered and mutated during the performance, and also creates and alters the visual projections that are mixed with electronics in this space that is walkable, where the audiences can go in and out whenever they feel and explore the space while they listen to the performance. As they describe it, is a wander through the music as if among the trees in a forest. They played this, it was performed in the Holland Festival, this 2024 in Amsterdam. So what they have in common, these performances, and I would say also what they have in common with the Wonders of the Forest. So I believe that they aspire to reconnect with the audiences by first offering shorter performances that can fit the busy lifestyle that most of the people have nowadays. Or in the case of Mutability, for example, they also allow the audiences to enter and leave whenever they feel like it. They also release expectation on classical music by breaking the traditional format. For example, they change completely the spaces. In social music, it's outdoors, in the nature, and in Mutability, we see how they create a whole space just for the performance. And they, of course, are also visually appealing, especially in the case of Mutability, where it has all these projections, specially designed for the performance. On the other hand, it also has an empowering and engagement effect on the musicians. We can clearly see the artistic identity in both of the performances. In social music, both of the performances are into meditation and Asian culture, Japanese, or all these most Eastern culture. And in Mutability, we see how Kyriakides is it goes beyond the one role. He didn't stay just in one in the role of the composer, but he was the sound designer. He went even more, and he partnered with other people to extend and go even beyond with interdisciplinary performance. It also embraced these kind of abilities. Going into these, we can see how they use different abilities that are not usually linked to the performance role, the usual classical performance role about playing the piece and being polite. And of course, we can see how they adapt to modernity in very different ways. So silent music goes for making a performance more global, mixing these two very far apart cultures, going beyond the Western traditional classical music. And Mutability goes more for the cutting edge approach, going even farther in modernity. So in this context, I found myself trying to answer the question that we mentioned before. And this is the Wonders of the Forest is my personal answer and my contribution to this moment that we are living. But what is the Wonders of the Forest? So The Wonders of the Forest is a classical music performance centered on a journey through the forest, structured as a tale, and supported by the guidance of a narrator, projected images, and electronic sounds. But of course, as the saying we usually say, an image says more than 1,000 words. So I would like to show you a very short video to have a taste of the performance. Let me just go and I will share. I hope it's audible.
Once upon a time, there was a young girl in an old little village. And the mysterious forest full of wonders. Countless birds of infinite charms. Birds of excitement and melancholy. Of spirit and will. You will hear nature, sound, and time.
So I'm coming back. Yeah. So my idea would be now to share with you what is the artistic concept behind this project that we now have a glimpse of it thanks to the video. So the artistic concept has 4 main pillars. The first one is the theme. That is, the concert has a very powerful and clear concept, the forest. That first of all is very relevant nowadays because in our context, we need to gain awareness of how important is nature and the forest for the human living. And with in the concert, putting this into the front, gives visibility to the environment. But it also has an artistic purpose, since it makes more appealing the performance to the audiences with this very strong concept. But especially, it serves as a unifying element. It unifies the whole repertoire of the concert that is quite diverse in styles and goes over more than a century of classical music history. We also see how the fact that it's structured as a tale helps to fade out expectations of classical music, because people feel that it's not we are going to listen a classical concert and need to be aware to know the pieces, to be worried about it. Now it's just, okay, I'm going to listen a story just like when we were children. It also has my artistic identity implicit in the project. All the repertoire speaks deeply to me, and I'm completely involved in almost every aspect of the project. I wrote the script of the narrator. I designed the projected images. I work on the staging. I'm on the producing, and etc. etc. And last but not least, the performance reconciles the music of the past with the most contemporary music of nowadays in one single program. And this is important because it looks for giving the same chances, the same importance, the same spotlight to the standards music that everyone in the classical music sphere knows from the past: classicism, romanticism, baroque, all this music that we know very well. It gives the same space, the spotlight to the music that is happening now, that is happening in our century, that is our context. We can see all these in how is it structured and the main features of the concert. For example, here we can see how the narrator interacts with blocks of music that at the same time refers to ideas or concepts that the narrator is describing and telling. And the story that the narrator is telling, it guides the listener towards from the 19th century music that's playing at the beginning, as Clara Schumann, Brahms, and Robert Schumann. From this 19th century music, it goes progressively towards the contemporary music, most contemporary music, until we arrive to the peak of the performance with the most cutting-edge piece, that is Figuras de Humo, written by Ernest Felipe Acosta, who, by the way, is my brother as well, so there is another personal trait in there. And this is the most cutting edge and perhaps the most striking piece of the concert, because it also includes extended piano techniques inside the piano, for example, playing with the magnets inside it, and also includes electronics that takes the acoustic sounds that is happening during the concert, so in live performance, take it, mix it with electronics, and treat it at the moment. So very briefly, before finishing, I would like to just take a moment to reflect on the repercussions that has on the performer's role, these kind of innovations in performance. We see, for example, that the performer becomes the creative source of production and performance. So the performer looks deep inside himself, herself, and discover many things about the performance, but also sometimes go to over different skills that are usually not related, or we don't expect to relate it to classical performance, and that could lead to interdisciplinarity. It also makes the performer more relatable and approachable to the audiences. It's no longer this person from a higher level that knows a lot, talking or playing pieces and showing to us some things that we cannot understand, that are very difficult. Suddenly it's more about a person sharing about that person and talking, speaking person to person directly at equal level. But it also helps the performer to achieve some important things, like, for example, have an artistic empowerment that comes from the fact that the performer becomes more aware of the creative capacity that we have as classical performers, that we are not mere transmitters of the work of another person, another creative person. We are creative in our domain, that is the performance itself, and we can do something about it there. We also have a higher commitment and implication, since it's something that can an implication. We get very involved in every aspect, and that makes us to feel connected all the time, and that lasts longer. And finally, it helps to define the artistic identity of the performer, or itself as a person, or the project itself. And that could help in one of the higher problematics that we have in our 21st century, that is the commodification of classical music. So if we have a very clear image, a powerful image, it's easier from the marketing side to sell our product, let's say. So to finish, I would like just to take back the big question that we mentioned before, that is how, as classical musicians, we can reconnect again with how this is in our 21st contemporary context. So we see here, for me, The Wonders of the Forest is my personal answer for that, that has my whole artistic identity implicit in it. And I hope that this contribution can help to show the vast potential for creativity that we classical musicians have at our hands, And I hope that this can encourage other people to create and make bigger the kaleidoscope of beautiful and modern performances. Thank you very much. I think it's more or less time for questions. Here I leave a QR code if you want to know more about the project, but please feel free also to ask me now any questions that you can have.
Thank you very much for this very inspirational project, which might also inspire more composers and musicians, hopefully, to create contemporary classical works, which try to resonate more with the contemporary audiences. Before I see some other people wanting to ask the question, I would like to ask you something about the your experience with the project. So, did you have or overcame some obstacles which you experienced while preparing the project, and how you overcame that? So I'm asking about the challenges while developing the project. And do you think, or have you evaluate the audience reaction to it? Because this was the aim of the project. I mean, to approach the audiences with a different sort of way of how to produce the concert. Thank you.
Yes. So bit by bit, I overcome. It has been a long process since the creation of the project, let's say, and of course, at the beginning, it was more about overcoming the my worries or these personal sides of the artistic identity, trying to define oneself, for example, trying to put something concrete for a very long time also shakes you a bit as a person. So to really put yourself in there. And but with time, now that this phase is a bit more overcome, now it becomes the not issues, but let's say the challenges of making all these other parts or tasks that as classical musicians we are not very experienced usually, or we are not that commonly exposed to that, like really worrying about how to make this appealing to the audiences, thinking about the other side, not only just the performance, because of course we still have the fact that we have this need of deliver a highly quality product that is the music itself. This is the first thing, but worry about also the package, it's another thinking. So going, this kind of it's layers and layers of new knowledge, new experiences that I'm also having. And yes, one of them, for example, is how to perceive lately the reception of the project itself. I started this with my final presentation of my master here in Groningen. So I had the feedback of teachers and audiences that came to see the concert. It was a really good feedback, but the real testing has been to putting it away, trying to make it out there. What's the opinion? So far has been very interested in other conferences, like in SAR Forum, that was last April, or also another one in June. And I also performed in the Aurora Festival this summer. This is the chamber music festival of the northern part of the Netherlands. And right now I got the support of the province of Groningen also to make a series of concerts around the province. It will happen at the end of November as well. So far, I see that at least the project is taking some attention on it, something that feels a bit different. So, but still a long way to see how it turns out.
Thank you very much. I see Pavel wants to ask something.
Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing this with us. I think it is a wonderful project, and I personally, I'm a forest person, so I like to be among the trees. One of my favorite pieces is Mikalojus Konstantinas Čiurlionis' symphonic poem "In the Forest."
Yeah, I understand. I'm also a very forest person.
but I would like to ask a question that has a intercultural problem, because in Poland, in Polish culture, I think that we have that forest in Polish culture has attributes of motherhood. Forest is a female, and we treat it as a mother's womb, from where the manhood and animals and all of the life springs out. We have even a word for this. So in Polish, there is mother, we call matka, and a forest has also a name, matecznik, matka, matecznik. That means that we treat forest as a mother, basically. And I wonder, how would you react on this information, actually, and whether it is similar in the culture that you come from?
Yes, actually, it's very interesting to see, because, of course, the fact that it's centered on a theme, on a concept, can bring, as you said, all these cultural implications that it resonates different depending on the culture. That's also, I tried when designing the script, the story, and a bit the concept to center the concept and the story, but in the most wide way that I could possibly do. So I especially try to use metaphors, like the stories about a young girl entering the forest and discovering what is in there, the magic of the forest and things. But it's never exactly clear what is it, or it's never so explicit. So at the moment that we enter and we talk about the forest and we listen to the story, every person can try to find and to fit what the bag that they bring of the knowledge, the culture, everything that is there. So it feels as personal as possible to each person. Because even if I thought about this story thinking about myself and my relations with the forest, I try to build that, to make it as a guidance, because it's about what I have learned and what I feel with the pieces, but trying to leave it as open as possible, so everything is in there. Of course, there are implications that they are always there. For example, I choose deliberately that the main character was also a girl instead of a young boy, because we have a lot of stories in history. So to give a bit of this margin to now is a girl who is entering the forest, who is going to there. So implicit, very subtle, but nothing that declares anything, so everyone can feel comfortable to complete the story with its own inner self, let's say. And of course, this is related to culture.
Yeah. Just one thing to add. I think that there are basic differences. The music that you play, that is German music, basically, comes from a different culture. And for Germans, as we can see in the story of Little Red Hood, a forest is a place that is dangerous. And for us, I would say it is a safe place. Mm-hmm. So it's a basic difference that comes to my mind.
Mm-hmm. No, yes, of course, and it's something absolutely interesting also to see, and I related to the question of Olga. I'm very excited to see, to look for the opportunities to share this idea in different contexts, cultural contexts, and to see what would be the reaction about it also, because it would be different for sure. That's something that I'm very curious to experience.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks to you.
Thank you very much, Diana, for really wonderful and inspirational project. I wanted to ask whether you think it will be scalable for some bigger orchestras or some bigger different places, but I think we don't have time for it and we have to move forward to another lecture. Thank you very much once more.
Thank you.
So our next speaker will be Eka Chabashvili. Is it correct?
Good morning. Yes, it's correct. But in Georgian, it's Chabashvili.
Chabashvili. Okay. From Tbilisi State Conservatory. Eka is a composer, artistic researcher, and associate professor. Her works are globally performed at some different, also international festivals. She develops the multi-topophonic composition technique. I'm really interested in learning more. The atomic nucleus music system and the KHMA instrument. As part of her research on the future of the piano, she created the Eco Piano Modekai. Modekal, yeah, okay. Yeah. Currently, Eka leads the Rastaveli funded project on ecomusicology, and I think we are going to hear about particularly this project. Thank you very much, and you're the floor.
I will share my presentation. So you are right. I want to present some ideas from our project, which we are leading now with my group. And I would like to share with you some principles of eco-music composition and sound oases. This is like topic of our fundamental research and main idea of our artistic research, and which is included in this fundamental research about ecomusicology methodology. So, sound and music are part of the Earth's ecosystem. Therefore, research on their positive and negative impact is important for a clean and healthy environment. That's why a new discipline of musicology has emerged in modern musicology, ecomusicology, and which studies the processes of interaction in the music, society, and the environmental system. It was by imitating nature that men learned to create instruments. And over time, based on instrumental modification and various artificially created rules, he developed a variety of sounds. Music moved away from its real environment, and as a result of the formation of aesthetic norm was separated from the general sound of the universe. Some composers of 20th century tried to use the resource of the sound of nature to create music, studying the sounds of the biosphere and using them in their works. Since it has become possible to record natural sounds, music gained new fresh sounds. Recording ambient noise and using it as the main musical material gave birth to a new direction of music concrete. Starting from Luigi Russolo up to the present day, the study of the phenomena of noise and the possibility of including it as a musical material in a work of art is a topical issue. Composers of the 20th century include sounds of the environment in music, but the idea of our research is to find the music inside the sound of the environment. The main goal of our research is creating a composition method which helps contemporary composers to compose eco-music work with the artificial source of music, recording instrument, instrument interacts with the live soundscape, and ambient sound is included in the texture of the piece. The music ecosystem is a set of multi-parametric data that needs to be studied in different ways, but research focused on the ecology of ambient sound is one of the important ones for the future of humanity. Therefore, it is significant the creation of the correct forms for including the environmental sound in artworks and performing art might be to take into account the ecology of environmental sound when composer create a music piece on the one hand for co-sounding with the earth sound resource on the other hand for safe interaction with the listener. It is possible alternative concert locations, we called it sound oases, to be selected, and musical works might be created for the selected locations where ambient sound would be included as a component of the work sound. Musical works combined with the sound of the environment would be called sample of eco music. Eco music. Very important to take into account the ecology of environmental sound when composer create eco music piece. Yeah. On the one hand, for sounding with the earth sound resource, on the other hand, for safe interaction with the listener, as I mentioned before. Canadian composer Raymond Schaffer viewed the world as a kind of musical instrument with ever-renewing tuning. He coined the term soundscape as the name of a natural environmental sound, including the sound field of the earth. It can be said that from which the music of nature is constructed. Currently, for just a minute. Yeah. Currently, for Georgian research composers are exploring the ambient sound of the Georgian environment to discover sound oases with the help of ethnomusicology methodology. We call sound oases as environment with a specific sound of the ecosystem to use in the musical piece as an instrument. What is eco-music? Music performed in alternative concert venues call it sound oasis. Music when the composer uses the soundscape of sound oasis as an instrument. A practical way to create an eco-music composition is to find an artificial sound source, instruments or electronic, for the piece that will blend into the soundscape. Philosophical view of eco-music is the creation of a composition, the sound of which is in harmony with the vibration of men, nature, environment, and the micro and microcosmos as a whole. According to the famous Italian composer, theoretics, and pianists of the early 20th century, Ferruccio Busoni declared, how music may be restored to its primitive natural sense. Let us free it from architecture, acoustic, and aesthetic dogmas. The world sounds like music, and people should be in harmony with it. If we consider it, that music includes all kinds of vibrations, whether acoustic frequencies or not, virtual music, for example. Does this mean that the soundscape is the earth's music and works like a language for the inhabitants of the earth to communicate? Musicologists Aaron Allen He is our consultant, our project consultant, and Jeff Todd-Tidan, explain in their article anthropocentric and ecocentric perspectives on music and environment. That ecocentric music scholarship decenters the human. The environment is no longer regarded merely as context, but as the thing itself that includes the human along with everything else, the biotic and abiotic. I would like present Eco-Piano, present the Eco-Concerto for piano, ordinary piano, Eco-Piano Modica, which you mentioned. This is a modified piano. For solist thrush, for helictophonics and the Prometheus cave. Helictophonics is a natural instrument inside this cave, and which is the result of two artistic projects. On one hand, Eco-Piano Modica was constructed in 2022 by me within the artistic research project Piano of the 21st Century and its future perspective aimed at presenting new perspective on the piano. And upright piano was modified based on approaches characteristic of contemporary music thinking and ecomusicology that result in eco-friendly piano. During the modification process, we incorporated into the tuning processes the natural sound characteristics and choose the harmonic frequencies of fundamental tones as the main source for the tuning. So this is not temporary instrument. So has its horizontal a scale. On the other hand, the concert was composed for another ongoing artistic research project, specific for composing and performing music works created for sound Oases, which studies the Georgian music ecosystem. With the project, the concert was composed for Prometheus Cave, karst cave located in West Georgia, which, according to us, and after expeditions, outcome has featured as a sound Oasis. In the version of this piece, in the version of it for EPARM performances, because this piece was performed on conference 2024 in spring artistic research conference EPARM. The recorded sounds of the ancient cave and modical it's like simulation of the eco music because was performed in the hall, and piano. We tried to answer the questions of Busoni, how music may be restored in its primitive natural essence. So, and we include in our work as a trash is the solist. So I would like to share this music with you can listen to some part of our composition. Is it sounds? Yeah. It is one of the eco music samples which I wanted to show, but we have another versions also, and about the eco music and Oases. Continue my colleague and co-researcher Maka Virsaladze. So thank you very much for your attention. Just like short presentation.
No, it's just perfect timing. It's just very, very perfect timing. Thank you very much, Eka, for your project. I would like to learn a little bit more about how do you decide which specific environmental sounds from Sound Oasis should be integrated into your eco music composition. So are you looking for some particular patterns?
Thank you very much. It's very interesting question and very active for us. And after our expeditions, and we decided that there is some areas in the environment where you cannot to be you cannot include the music blend with the sounds, like waterfalls, for example. This is sound which has white noise, and main principle of the eco music is that it's important don't cover the sound of the environment. You have to be in collaboration, in cooperation with the sound. Yes, you have to find because if everybody calls eco music the concert which is outside, outdoor concerts, it is not eco music. Opposite, it is if you have loudspeakers very big and you cover and the sound and also not only sound listeners, not only people are listeners. There is animals which we cannot to see. For example, some insects and other animals which are afraid of this sound. This sound influence on their health also. Because of this, when you compose eco music, you have to think about them also, that they also find also be comfortable in this area where you perform this music. And of course, in environment also, there is some sounds which impossible to use as part of the music. One waterfall, what I said. Because if you want to be in harmony, you need more decibels for the balance, and of course it's not ecological very well way because there will be artificial sounds, which, for example, basses, you use some high, ultra sounds like this. So, if I answer the question.
Thank you very much. I don't see whether there are some questions from the participants, so you just start talking, please.
Okay.
May I ask? I would like to thank you very much for
Eka.
Thank you very much for your extremely interesting paper. Particularly, I like music very much. And why did you choose trash? Because of course I know this is fantastic thing.
Yeah,
Is a very good thing, but are there some special reasons you have chosen this?
it's very it's very interesting history has. In my balcony, this trash comes every evening and every morning, and things. And at last I decided that she or he wants that I recorded his song.
Okay.
And it comes idea in the morning at all months in the spring. There was a very nice wooden place. Here he sat and 15 minutes or maybe more was singing. So because of this, and so it's like some intuitive relationships was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And do you have some other pieces with birds? Maybe no. This is the only one.
Yeah. No. We for example, we have another several pieces. Yes, but which I want to mention. This is this piece was not performed. We are going to perform. It is abiotic dances, as it's called. Here is piano, harp, and zadar organ, sea organ. Yeah, and the environmental sounds also. But all of them is one direction of the eco music, like this music is not in this location. Of course, you can it is possible to be performed in the on the beach of Zadar, but anyways, this is a simulation of the eco music. But we have also experimental performances. What about Maka will present and talk? It was exactly in this location, performance through the cave, and outside also we had some not only improvisation. It's like aleatory. Anyway, this is aleatory music. You cannot predict that trash comes again and sings for your piece, isn't it? But you know the acoustical aerial, and eco music composer have to research this aerial for what you want to compose, because there is sounds which is mobile, but sounds which always you can find in this location. So, and you have to balance with the stable sounds and predict some mobile.
Sure. Okay, thank you so much. It's very interesting. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions? We still have like 2 minutes.
Yes, I can ask one question. Thank you very much for this presentation. So I am wondering, what are the criteria for choosing the sites you call sound oases? You already mentioned that they cannot be too loud like waterfalls, but is there a set of criteria for choosing them? And the second question is, how does the composition process look like? Like, do you first explore the place, record sound samples, and then you compose based on these samples? How does it look like?
Yeah, I start from the second question. Yeah. So you are right. We composer have to research the location, as I mentioned before, and after for example, make some drawing how and where sounds, because it's as a multi-topophonic technique exactly is acoustic, learns, studies the acoustical points, locations of the sound in the environment, because all in any in different location you have different kinds of acoustical features. For example, in cave you have more comfortable features because it looks like home. But if you are on the beach, for example, or in the forest, for example, or in any area you can choose where you find some interesting soundscape for your music. Of course, they have different kind of the acoustical features, and this is also we are instrumentalists have to stay. For example, it's not what kind of timbre you need, how dynamics you need. Time and space very important for this music, because you have to be in harmony. The space of the landscape. Our landscape has own time. Yes, for example, space of in urban area is more aggressive and fast. Here also it's possible to for this also possible to compose music for urban area, but have to research and balance what kind of instruments you have to choose and what kind of musical material, of course. And there, for example, when I make this music, I also realize pitches and rhythmical material of the location, and the multi-topophonical technique exactly is choosing of the psycho times. For example, each musical source has own pulsation. Of course, if you listen to the aerial, some environment, you find the layers of the sounds, yes, which compose some texture. So this is similar attitude with folk music. You have to find your layer, your instruments layer in this texture, the texture of the sound. Okay. Sorry, what was first question? I think.
Yes, thank you. The first question was about the criteria for choosing these sites.
Yeah, so yeah, it's about this also I answer, because criteria depend on the composer. First time we thought that have to be some very original soundscape, but each soundscape original if it in sound oases if composer find interesting for each composer. But of course we have some criteria, have to be more, less louder, the sound, have to be more interesting texture in the soundscape, and have to be place of your musical material in this place.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eka. I thank you very much for this first part of the projects which you are doing at Tbilisi Conservatory. It seems like your place is the center of the eco musicology and eco music composition, looks to me. And I would like to bridge it with another speaker from the same research, composer researchers group. I believe this is Maka Virsaladze, who is going to show us another project of eco music, but it is concerned with urban and non-urban spaces. Maka, are you here with us? Do you hear me?
I am here, but I cannot open the video. Sorry, it's written that I am stopped, but I can share my screen.
Yes, but let me, I give you 2 more minutes and I will try to introduce you and maybe to say a few words about your presentation. So Maka Virsaladze is a composer and researcher from the Tbilisi State Conservatory. As I said, she is a doctor of musical arts. She participated in various local and international conferences and practical seminars. She is a member of this researchers, composers group, and this research is run with support of Rustaveli National Science Foundation of Georgia. So the study of she's going to present is sort of advocating harmonious coexistence between nature and humanity. So let's hear if your project is ready to be presented. Let's hear from you, Maka. Thank you.
The contemporary world presents challenges to individuals, regardless of their field of work. Since the last century, techniques of computerization and more recently the advent of artificial intelligence have on one hand improved human existence, but on the other hand often disrupted the harmonious balance of nature, posing threats to both humanity and the planet itself. In response to these problems and within their sphere of competence, musicians see the emergence of eco-musicology as a potential way to contribute to the preservation of the earth. As everybody knows, eco-musicology is a new interdisciplinary field that examines the interaction between humans, nature, and the sound. Since 2022, as Eka said, with funding from Rustaveli National Science Foundation of Georgia, a group of researchers led by composer Chabashvili has been conducting a fundamental study titled Implementation of Eco-Musicology Research Methodology for the Study of the Georgian Music Ecosystem. As part of this research, an artistic research project focusing on the creation and performance of eco-music samples for sound oases is being undertaken. I am also a member of this aforementioned research group, and I try to develop compositional methods for eco-musical works within the scope of artistic research. In this article, I wish to share my modest observations. Specifically, I offer a comparative analysis of eco-music performances in urban and non-urban spaces, with the aim of highlighting specific compositional characteristics of eco-music. In the future, based on these characteristics, we hope to develop a comprehensive methodology for the creation and performance of eco-music compositions. Our project has included 2 performances in urban and non-urban spaces, and I will attempt to draw conclusions from this personal experience, even if only at the stage of posing questions. First, I believe it's important to define the concept of eco-music composition. In this regard, I find the interpretation of Canadian composer Barry Troy, particularly his book Acoustic Communication, quite enlightening. In this work, Troy discusses the composition of soundscapes, primarily within the context of electroacoustic music, although the principles he describes can also apply to acoustic music. According to Troy, soundscape compositions range from natural found compositions, where the arrangement of environmental sounds is so compelling that a simple recording can be appreciated as music, to those compositions painstakingly constructed from environmental elements, to those that have been significantly manipulated but still retain a recognizable connection to their original environment. Another Canadian composer, James Harley, echoes these statements in his paper From Trains to Planes, and a historical critical consideration of soundscape composition, where he quotes Troy's definition of soundscape composition as a form of electroacoustic music characterized by the presence of recognizable environmental sounds and contexts, with the aim of invoking the listener's associations, memories, and imagination related to soundscape. There are also instances where the term eco-music is applied to works in which nature is referenced in the title or theme of the composition. However, within our project and based on Chabashvili's concept, eco-music implies a combination of 2 elements. First, nature may appear in the title or theme, though this is not always essential. More importantly, the second element requires that the composition integrates with the natural soundscape of the environment, merging into an unified sonic environment. In the context of our project, we have already completed 2 performances that align with the concept which I will now discuss. Additionally, I believe it essential to address the idea of a sound oasis. In this concept is central to our research project, which explores the creation and performance of eco-music samples for sound oasis. Chabashvili introduced the concept of the sound oasis as part of our project. The term had previously appeared in English, notably in the name of Sound Oasis S680 tinnitus sound therapy system, a device used for tinnitus treatment. However, the concept of sound oasis in nature can be approached from a different angle. To begin with, it's important to define what qualifies as a sound oasis and the conditions required to assign the status to a particular place. An oasis generally refers to a fertile spot in a desert where water is found and plants can thrive. Figuratively, it refers to a place or situation that stands out positively from its surroundings. When applied to sound, an oasis may be seen as a place where natural sounds are rich and varied. If we extend this metaphor, however, we could argue that a sound oasis is a location characterized by a specific stillness or a unique interplay of silence and sound. It's possible to view the concept of sound oasis from two perspectives, though I favor the first. Nevertheless, I will discuss both to clarify why the first is preferable. The first perspective involves the perception of a sound oasis through a single artistic metaphorical lens. For instance, from a global perspective, caves could be compared to the human ear, closed yet highly responsive and to external sounds. In this sense, a cave may be seen as a special acoustic space deserving of the sound oasis designation. Most importantly, with our research, the concept of sound oasis is treated as a component of artistic investigation. Therefore, using artistic methods and metaphorical associative perceptions, we can assign the status of sound oasis a priori to caves. The second approach, by contrast, involves measuring specific acoustic parameters to confirm a location status as a sound oasis. However, I believe that this method would yield conventional results, as the measurements could apply to many ordinary places. In the case of a cave, however, the uniqueness of the environment is undeniable, both due to its psychological impact, being in the ground in a naturally beautiful setting, and its acoustic properties, though this may not always be easily measured. As for the acoustic details, they can include sound reflection or sound reproduction, also referred to as the echo coefficient, sound propagation coefficient, which measures sound attenuation, spatiality, and distribution, sound clarify, the intensity of existing sounds, and the tempo or speed of the sounds. Thus far, we have held two eco-music performances, one in non-urban space, Prometheus Cave in Western Georgia, and one in an urban space, a crowded park in central Tbilisi. We can classify the first non-urban performance as taking place in a sound oasis, while the second urban performance occurred in a park surrounded by busy streets, construction sites, people walking, and street animals. The first notable difference between these performances is that the non-urban space we selected has a unique character and can be considered an oasis, while the urban space represents an average urban sound environment. From a compositional or performative standpoint, both performances featured a guide performer, though the person who guided this performance, though the guide had a more significant role in the cave performance due to the large space over which the performance took place. In contrast, the park performance involved a smaller space, and neither the performers nor the audience were required to move. The cave performance was longer, over 1 hour, while the park performance was shorter. The performances also differed in content. In the park, many listeners happened upon the performance by chance while engaging in their usual activities. Were rare in the cave. Listeners were fully immersed in the sound and visual environment, perceiving the performance as an integrated whole. Compositionally, the non-urban performance included a wider variety of sounds, such as classical and folk strings, percussion, vocals, and electronic music recordings. In the urban space, the performance primarily featured strings, brass, and vocals. Additionally, the non-urban performance was divided into 6 structural units, corresponding to the 6 halls of the cave, whereas the urban performance had a more unified structure with smaller sound transitions between different instruments. The fixation of the performances is also interesting. Both were notated using determinated notation, reflecting the improvisational and free nature of the performances. In the Prometheus cave performance, the score was verbal, providing instructions to the performers. For example, at one point, the score directed performers to stop every 50-60 steps and play two different fifths. The guide's actions were also described in detail, such as when to play electronic music and how to grow should interact with the space. The score also included some precisely notated fragments, although these were optional and could be incorporated at the performer's discretion. In the case of the performances in the Prometheus cave, we have a verbally notated, as I already said. This includes a brief description of the route, also the names of the halls within the cave, along with their distance and introduction of guide performer, and the main part, the performance scenario. This scenario specifies the location, entrance, and the sounds to be performed in each hall. The sound of the fifths lasts for 10-15 seconds. Additionally, we see action instructions for the guide in the Kolheti hall. When Johnny Asitashvili's electronic music is played, the guide switches on the music and the group of visitors stops for 2-3 minutes before continuing their path, with the sound of the music following them. Interestingly, the primary verbal score is supplemented with by appendix, which contains fragments notated in precise determinate notation. This section also comes with instructions. For example, as soon as the visitors outside the media hall fall silent, after 10-15 seconds, the performers inside the hall begin playing Maka Virsaladze's work, which is heard by the visitors outside. After 20-25 seconds, the visitors enter the hall, where they pause for 3-4 minutes to listen to the music. An improvisational frame roll is also provided, offering guidance to the performers. After a sound has already been played, the entry of a new instrument may occur no sooner than 5-7 seconds and no later than 25 seconds. The urban space performance was represented by a graphic score with segments of sound or performance methods differentiated by color and geometric figures. The between instruments was depicted with geometric shapes such as triangles or squares, indicating their entry and exit points. This visual representation was particularly striking and reflected the visual nature of the score. Guide performers' indicative entry and exit instructions are also fixed in the form of a table, as you can see now, where different segments, sounds, or performance methods are given in different colors. The direction of echoes between the instruments is depicted by geometric figures. In some cases, the instruments form a triangle with echoes, sometimes a square, or they enter one after the other in a cross direction. Here too, there are fragments recorded with precisely determined notation, although their inclusion in the course of the performance is not mandatory, that is free. It's interesting to compare the arrangement of instruments and the distributions of sounds with geometric figures and colors. This is in turn gives us an interesting visual situation, which once again confirms the visual load of this score. This boss score belongs to Eka Chabashvili. The performances conducted in both urban and non-urban spaces revealed key aspects of the compositional methodology characteristic of eco-music. This includes the integration of environmental soundscapes into the musical composition, improvisation, temporal and structural freedom, the presence of a guide performer, and the use of indeterminate notation. It's also likely that fewer experiments with eco-composition will uncover additional characteristics. And now, oh, sorry, why it does not sound? Oh, sorry. I don't know why it does not sound. Yesterday I checked, but just a moment, I can maybe just a moment. Just a moment, sorry. Maybe I will fragment count. It's in cave. One place. Thank you very much for attention.
Thank you very much, Maka, for this very exciting presentation. I have recently visited Faroe Islands, where we also went to the cave performance. That the difference was from what you showed us was that the cave was approachable only from the boat, which was additional excitement to the audience experiences. But I wanted to ask you, how do these different audiences respond to eco-music in urban and non-urban settings? Are there some significant differences, or how they connect to the music? I could say that maybe in the urban spaces you have also pop-up audiences, while into the cave they have to intentionally come to see the performance, right?
Yes, exactly. In cave, the people were specially, they were prepared to see, to listen to special sounds. So it's natural that they reacted more actively and were satisfied. But in the park, some persons, maybe one or two or maybe more, were reacted and also said to us that it's interesting something, but main people walk, continuing their walking. Yes, there or something. Yes, no, it's usual. We were ready for such difference. Yes, unfortunately, I cannot open my video, but
we hear you. We hear you. If there are any questions, just jump into the discussion, please. I will follow with asking. Well, was there also? Did I understand right from what you showed us that there was also the audience which was involved in active performance in the cave? Was there audience also performing, or it was the musicians which you invited?
It were musicians, yes. It was school pupil, also professional musicians, but at the end of the performance, audience also could perform to join group and sing, generally sing, yes. Main performers were musicians or students, but it was possible to join for usual audience also for the end of this performance, for more free part.
Yeah,
yes, and they started to sing Georgian church.
Yes,
yes, and some folk song and church songs. Yes, for the end of performance.
We were talking about this sound oasis before, which is important part of your research. So, what techniques do you find the most interesting for balancing interaction between the artificial sound and the natural soundscapes without overpowering one another?
It depends to exact composer's concept and to their exact concepts. For example, in the first composition for the cave, the main author was Chabashvili, but it was included also some another excerpts for example, from electroacoustical compositions, as fragments, also live music. It was more large and free. About second one, because of the space, it was one tone or two tone and some vibration of changing these tones. So it was more, not more or less sounds. And so I can answer that it depends to each composition. And anyway, it must be hearable that some nature sounds somehow exist. On this stage of our research, our concept is that it must be included somehow.
Anybody? Questions? Agnieszka?
Yes, a short question. Thank you, Maka, for this presentation. So I'm wondering if these two events that you described were advertised as eco-music concerts, especially the one in the park. Was the audience, did the audience know in advance that there will be such an event, and how did you promote it?
They know generally that we send invitation in by internet, but what will be exactly, they didn't know about audience. No, they know, for example, cave. We invited people to cave for the park event. no, we did not invite so actively, but for the cave, we invited many people, also prepared some invitation, and they know they know that what they could see there, but what they will hear, and it was not known for them. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maka, for your presentation once more. And I think we can move to the final presentation of this first block of presentations. And yeah, I can see that we
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Maka. Thank you very much. I can see that Gvantsa, Ghvinjilia is with us now. We can see you. So welcome very much. We are looking forward to hear a concrete example of music, which is work, Silkworm's Butterfly Wisdom, written by Chabashvili. And I understand that it is a Nano Eco-Cantata, which you are going to analyze for us. Let me introduce Gvantsa. She is a musicologist, a head of dissertation board at Tbilisi State Conservatory. She is also a member of the Georgian Composers Union and a senior teacher at the Tbilisi State Conservatory. She is part of this researchers composers group. She also participated in Erasmus mobility program, delivering public lectures in Georgia, Belgium, Poland, and Ukraine. So she is also interested in other topics like transhumanism, multimedia, eco-music, and European integration. And she's actively participating in different conferences across different countries. So we are looking forward to hear about the project, Gvantsa. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Do you see me? Do you hear me?
Yes, very good.
Okay. And do you see my presentation?
Yes, indeed. We see everything. Thank you.
Okay. So first of all, thank you very much for this brilliant and innovative conference. And I want to thank organizers of this conference. So the scientific paper explores the intersection of eco-music and sustainable development, focusing on particular composition, Eco-Cantata of Georgian post-avant-garde composer Chabashvili, as it's a brilliant example of how to address ecological issue to an artistic and allegorical form. The goal is to provide a comprehensive analysis of how eco-music and eco-musicology as a cultural and artistic mediums can contribute to addressing ecological challenges and promoting sustainable development. The analysis will be conducted in two phases. First, to determine the phenomena of eco-music in general, its genesis, interconnections between eco-music, ecological problems, sustainable development, and then discuss these particular examples. So for phase number one, eco-music is a new direction that can be linked with sustainable development. My goal is to demonstrate how these themes are interconnected. Sustainable development refers to societal progress that safeguards environmental diversity, ensuring long-term well-being for future generations. Eco-music is a socio-cultural activity that can focus society on ecological problems and contribute to rising ecological awareness, thereby promoting sustainable development. The foundation of eco-music was caused by crises in ecology. The ecological crises have subjective and objective reasons. Objective reasons can be discussed as global warming, which is partly a result of human actions, with habitat destruction and pollution of water, air, and soil. And objective causes are global warming, floods, and melting of polar ice. By the way, we know what's happening on polars. So both scenarios exacerbate environmental challenges that threaten life on Earth. Australian microbiologist banner raised concerns that the long-term effects of ecological problems will transform Earth uninhabitable for humans, potentially leading to humanity's extinction. Today, Earth's agenda raises the question, what is more destructive, global wars or environmental crisis? Soon, ecological problems will overshadow military operations. Music in particular, eco-music, is important in solving the problems of sustainable development. Unfortunately, musicians are often excluded from discussions about economic crises and sustainable development issues, which is unfair because civilization has also cultural dimension, and ecological crises are reflection of cultural, moral crises and loss of spirituality. Let's remember the novel Road by American writer Maka, whose central theme suggests that the post-apocalyptic world is not a result of atomic warfare or environmental catastrophe, but rather a collapse of moral and spiritual values. Indeed, through the power of art, music influences society by shaping people's spirituality, moral values, tastes, and mental states. In turn, it contributes to the harmonious development of a progress-oriented civilization, drawing listeners' attention to environmental issues. Thus, the importance of eco-music goes beyond art, becoming part of broader cultural context and playing a crucial role in the moral education of society, which then influences people's actions toward nature. It means broader understanding and re-evaluation of mission of art music, not merely as field of art or entertainment, but renewable socio-cultural phenomenon and biocultural resource. Here is two quotes to support my opinion. You can see on the screen. Eco-music is a new trend is focused on the desire for a transformation of consciousness. Without calling for a change in consciousness in our mind, the existence of eco-music loses its meaning, and it would be impossible to contribute to sustainable development. Why is it necessary for eco-music to change the listener's cognition? First, we have to remind what stage of consciousness do we currently possess. Officially, we are in Holocene epoch, but in reality, we are in human-dominated geological stage, Anthropocene, because humankind has begun to compete with nature and artificially alter the Earth's ecosystem. During this era, the mental superiority of mankind has proportionally increased the ego, leading to the perception of humanity as being at the top of the species pyramid of the ecosystem. More so, the freedom of choice as a constant selfish satisfaction of desires was resulting in large-scale destructive actions. For a more sustainable future, humankind must focus on enlightenment of the mind, self-determination, and acquisition of eco-consciousness. If anthropocentric consciousness will be replaced by a new paradigm of ecological consciousness, this ego-civilization will transform into eco-civilization. Only ecosystem conceptualizes mankind in harmonious relationship with the rest of nature. Here is a quote about importance of brain transformation. All this sometimes leads us to mention Charles Darwin's evolution concept, according to which the strongest will survive. However, ecological awareness introduces a new perspective. The strongest are not those who merely survive, but those who preserve weak. Several arguments point to the need to get closer to nature again. First argument, also the Bible mentions that humans and animals are equal. The second argument, all the knowledge what we have accumulated was observing nature as a primordial origin of all things. According to Walcott, the separation between human beings and the natural environment is a false dichotomy. We are nature, nature is us. The third argument is that human nature is a spontaneous nature, as in nature. And our disconnection from nature means disconnection from our immanent essence. So let's have a look at some important references and proverbs. Here you see excerpt from rhyme. The earth has its music for those who will listen. And also, when the last tree is cut, the last fish is caught, the last river is polluted, when the air is sickening, you will realize too late that wealth is not the bank accounts and that you can't eat money. The goal of life is living in agreement with nature, Zeno. A brilliant proverb, African proverb. Until the lion learns how to write, every story will glorify the hunter. So eco-music is the latest mainstream of artistic expression emerging from intersection of sound, natural environment, and ecology, reminds us that the earth is what all we have in common. In nature, nothing exists alone. So intersect in nature has always existed in music. Let's remember Rameau, Chopin, Vivaldi, Hans, Schubert, Beethoven, Messiaen, Wagner, and others. But I want to emphasize Wagner's philosophical attitude to this problem. The finale of Gottesdammerung supports the idea that everything originates from water and returns to it. That means restoration of natural harmony and biogenesis. The water as a symbol of primordial state of nature can be interpreted as eco-critical message of Wagner. We must protect the nature from destructive efforts of ego-driven civilization. So some preconditions of eco-music can be observed, and eco-music contributes to the formation of shared sense of common homestead identity that transcends religious, ethnic, and political affiliations. Remember, Carl Sagan calls us to protect each other and Earth, our only home. The above discussion confirms that eco-music composition should be investigated in two ways, as a work of art and within context of sustainable development strategies. So phase two, eco-music in Georgia. As academic and artistic movement is emerging as a new direction in Georgia, however, attitude toward nature revealed many centuries ago in pagan Georgian rites and Georgian literature from 5th century. A direct prerequisite for ecomusicology can be traced back to Nodar Mamisashvili, and here is his words. Let's not forget that the instruments created by genius Stradivarius, Guarneri, Amati, and others inspired by God also emit the sounds of those trees and metals, which can share the beauty of the world and the mystery of human feelings. So elements of eco-music are evident in Chabashvili's eco-compositions and syncretic experimental multimedia projects. Symphony exhibition Voice, featuring a unique instrument, a harp, designed as a modern reincarnation of Greek aulos, Nano Opera Pandora, which reflects the COVID pandemic, and sound performance Let's Listen to Caves. This expedition was conducted to study the acoustic environment in the caves of Georgia, aiming to discover sound as oases. Eco-music parameters were evaluated, acoustic data of the caves were recorded, and the musical materials integrated with the natural sounds of the caves. This project exemplifies a hi-fi soundscape using Murphy's term, which is characterized by a high level of acoustic clarity. So today I will focus on Nano Eco-Cantata, which reflects on ecological issues through perspectives of one tiny creature. All eco-soundscape compositions or works with eco-music elements share a common goal to dismantle the hierarchical structure of living beings created by our consumerist society. In fact, all creatures and plants are considered full-fledged members of Earth's ecosystem. Each composition contains methodologies that emphasize the creation of eco-music. I will focus on this Eco-Cantata. The work is written for a launch event of European Silk Road mobile app in Berlin. And this work, so in this work, as another multimedia project of ECA, traditional roles of composer, performer, and listener are entirely reimagined. Composition is not recorded in a traditional notation. There is only script. Composer uses pre-selected sound recordings of noise and verbal text that have function of the sonorous component. Performer of the Silkworm butterfly's monologue is not visualized and remains outside the frame. Only audio material of the monologue's narration's voice is heard. The visual side is presented by a visual consequence of nature shots and titles on screen. All these adds non-diegenic elements and elements of documentary focus to composition. Definition of nano. Author's genre definition needs clarification. It's commonly known that beyond the visible world, there is another reality classified as nano world. But here, nano is used metaphorically, as it refers to the duration of the work, 5 minutes. Author's message is clear. Obviously, for human mental capacity, nano world is non-visible, but the real problem is that we usually don't notice small visible creatures around us. The structure divided into 3 sections, which reminds us of sonata form. Composition begins and ends with monologue of Silkworm. And the background of this monologue, there are sound material, is represented by 2 sound sources. The first is represented by sound of human hands rubbing the palms against each other at the microphone, and the second one is produced by crumpling the thin cellophane package. The worm's monologue is heard right against the background of these 2 sound sequences. Here is the text. I am a silkworm. For centuries I have not understood why the longest road in the world is named after me. Maybe because I love to travel. I was in Georgia once. Centuries ago, I crossed the magical forests. I went through caves. I slipped through the rivers between the sharp rocks, where the sunshines were screening movies about the beauty of love. While I was swimming into the polyphonic poems of dialogue between water, wind, and sun rays, I discovered that I reached the gate of Europe. It seemed that European door is always open, and it's gliding on the surface of the Black Sea. When I metamorphosed into a butterfly to cross the sea, I felt pleasant lightness and freedom while flying in the sky. Beside this text, some Georgian words with positive meaning are heard alternately to this monologue, and they are grouped in 2 groups. Part 1 and second part, problems of eco-music are linked with politics and the term of freedom. What is main idea of this part? The lack of inner freedom leads to both political conflicts and conflicts with nature. The point is that we are constantly battling with nature, whether by destroying landscapes or provoking military conflicts. All this comes from inability to attain inner freedom. The freedom is certain issue in the second part. So it begins with excerpts from former Prime Minister Zorab Zhvania's speech delivered at Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe. I'm Georgian, therefore I'm European, which is repeated according to the principle of counterpoint. Another source is also a patriotic poem of Georgian poet Lado Asatiani, also about freedom. In the third part, Silkworm transforms into moth, with nature giving it wings, symbolizing the renewal of the mind. Moth is completely ready for freedom, but a new resistance appears. Not all are ready for freedom. Butterfly's monologue with the rhetorical question remains unanswered. Could you allow each other to fly? You don't even allow me to fly, me whom the wings were given by nature. What are main ideas of the third part? The eco-criticism of mankind, its paradox that Homo sapiens is considered as superior in intelligence, as a working species Homo faber, as symbolic thinking species Homo symbolicus. However, we are the only species that destroys sinless nature. We are human, but not humane. Composer used tiny silkworm as a mediator between humans and nature to help us to cooperate with all beings. The transformation of silkworm into moss conveys a deeper philosophical idea, hinting at nature's fundamental characteristic, cyclicity. The fact is, we have lost sight of nature's regularity, as we now live in an artificially planned environments where fruits and vegetables and everything are available in markets. Conclusion. Chabashvili's composition is focused on making humanity eco-friendly that resonates with the goals of sustainable development. Composer wants to help listeners to substitute the anthropomorphic consciousness with a new paradigm of ecological consciousness. Eco-music is a brilliant example of the fact that music is a renewable phenomenon that is able to develop new genres and forms that overcomes boundaries of art and are capable to support sustainable development.
Thank you very much, Gvantsa. Thank you very much for giving. Still,
yes, something went with my computer. Sorry. Okay. This is references, and this is composition.
I am a silkworm. For centuries, I have not understood why the longest road in the world is named after me. Maybe because I love to travel. I was once in Georgia, centuries ago. I crossed the magical forests. I went through the mysterious mountains and caves.
And so on. So thank you for attention. I'm stop sharing.
Gvantsa. Thank you, Gvantsa, for showing us a particular example of how the eco music is understood and concretely approached in Georgia. I would, before my colleagues will jump in with the questions, I would like to ask you, could you just underline for us the key compositional approaches in Chabashvili's eco music that you found particularly innovative or impactful?
Okay. Eco-Chabashvili, maybe for about 10 years, is oriented on multimedia compositions, multimedia music. And suddenly, we all find out, and of course, composer, that her multimedia projects have signs of eco-music. For example, when she had a project Voice, she wanted to show us how we can listen to vibrations of cosmic spheres, vibrations of items, vibrations of items that we don't take into account maybe in life. This composition, this project also contains the signs of eco-music and sound oasis. Of course, it's soundscape composition with all parameters of soundscape composition, because with hi-fi, lo-fi parameters in music. And this Pandora also, it's about COVID pandemic. That is also a result of our bad attitude to environments. And that also was a result of ecological catastrophe. Viruses are also part of this catastrophe. Also, her project, the last composition I was talking about, Silkworm, this little tiny silkworm as a mediator, our mediator with nature. And Silkworm, this tiny creature that can transform, has this ability from nature, tells us its story, how we don't take into account this little creature, and we don't take account other creatures because we have mental superiority over other creatures. And that's why I mentioned Darwin's theory, because we all know that the strongest will survive. But I think that why is it so brilliant example of eco-music? Because it is oriented on the main principle of eco-musicology. Not strongest will survive. Strong is that person who will save the weak. So we must save the weak. And in this case, we are human beings. So in this case, we are superior in intelligence. Or otherwise, what result do we have? This result is observed in Wagner's Gottesdämmerung. Our egocentric orientation on wealth, on money, on gold, on we destroy nature, and what we have in finale, we destroy our planet, not only for human beings, but for all other planet creatures, for all plants, for all beings, for all viruses. We destroy everything. So are we superior in intelligence, really? So this composition has the main question: are we superior in intelligence? Are we homo faber? Are we homo symbolicus? So because if we if we manage to destroy planet, to make the global wars and global ecological catastrophes, are we superior in intelligence? So this is the main ecological problem that Eka wants to share with us in very reduced time, 5 minutes only. And that's why it has a 3-part structure. And the first part, this silkworm introduces itself and its problem. Then we are concentrated on freedom, inner freedom, that is basis of eco-consciousness. In reality, freedom is the basis of eco-consciousness and renewable mind. And after that, Silkworm raises a question. I have wings. Why don't you let me fly? I have wings. Nature gave me wings. And why you, mankind, don't let me fly? This is eco-criticism. By the way, eco-criticism, as you know, is a new trend also in literature. And I mentioned the Curtis the Road, this brilliant book. This is part of eco-criticism. So Eka also managed to be eco-critical and to raise the questions, the main questions. So can we give the nature, permission to fly if they have wings? Of course, it's metaphor. Wings are a metaphor of freedom, but we ourselves don't have freedom. Sometimes we people don't have freedom, and Wagner introduces it perfectly in his Gottesdämmerung, that we don't have inner freedom. That is result.
Yes, thank you very much. Anybody wants to jump into this discussion? I clearly understand from what you said that you believe that eco-music works is sort of artistic contribution towards the building the perception of the audience towards the sustainable and environmental issues. But you also mentioned that musicians are not very much, or artists in general, are not very much part of the general discussion about this ecology. Do you think that beside their artistic contribution, there is any other way how musicians and artists can play a role in advocating for sustainable development?
Yes, great question. I was thinking about it because in all ecological conferences or conferences about sustainable development, for example, if musicologists send abstract, they will ask me, why are you here? But what can we do? That was great question. Green initiatives, too many green initiatives to support the nature, to preserve the nature for the next generation. But we see the results. For example, you maybe all know that the new expedition on Arctic pole, Arctic pole, it was organized in summer. They investigated Arctic new perspectives of melting the ice, and what they found there, that too many creatures are dying, and too many new creatures are born, and we don't know what creatures are these creatures. What threat do they have for us? And they published this article. This article has 20 authors. Among them, one was Georgian scholar. And when I read this article, I was very, I was very frightened, because there are too many dangerous facts about what is our future after melting this ice. So we must contribute to green initiatives, maybe every week, and study and teach it to pupils in schools, in universities, and maybe course of eco-music in schools. And it's very important to contribute to environmental issues and have a course subject, eco-music, for example, at schools or universities, not only laboratories, but study programs, books, green initiatives, too many concerts. It's very important because, as I have said, in our agenda, we have global wars, of course, but the ecological problems will overshadow it very soon. And we will not thinking about wars. We would have too many ecological problems and nobody will think about wars. This is our reality in future, in maybe in 2 or 3 years, because we see the floods, we see viruses, and too many problems that will put on the background wars.
Thank you.
So green initiatives.
Thank you, Gvantsa. I believe that our conference and the whole project of renewable music is a good example of such initiatives. So
yes, I want to thank you for this innovative conference. It's very crucial for environment, for us, for human beings, and for nature.
Thank you very much. And thank you all speakers of that panel that were so exact with keeping time. So we are perfectly fine. And now I thank you once more for all your contributions and discussion. And I will give it over to Agnieszka to tell us about the next panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Olga. And we have break. Have 1.5 hours of break. Okay.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you once again to all the speakers for all their inspiring presentations. And indeed, now we invite everyone to 1.5 hour lunch break, and we will reconvene at 3:30 for the final session of the day.